Welcome to the Explore Refresher webinar. This webinar is for college and career coaches and district liaisons who have attended an Explore workshop in a prior year. My name is Ann Conley. I'm the Explore manager, and I'll be giving the first half of the PowerPoint, and Meredith Townley from ACT Learning Management Team will complete the second portion of the reporting of the Explore materials at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat area at the bottom of the left-hand corner of your screen, and we'll try to answer those before the end of the webinar. So feel free to type those in as we go along. So bear with me while I review the objectives and background of this Explore material. We're trying to complete what we do in a 6-hour workshop in 1 hour today. So I'm going to briefly just review some of the history and background of the Explore, just to give you guys a reminder of what we're talking about and why you went to all this work, this hard work this year. So the objective of this session is to prepare you to help students and parents in your high schools to benefit from the Explore results and to provide you with all the resources you'll need to do that. So the Explore program came about originally to significantly and sustainably increase the percentage of Arizona's low-income 8th graders who enter in high school on track and college ready. And the goal was to enhance the capacity of participating middle schools to participate and prepare students in the college and career ready program. We provide Explore workshops for schools, and in your case, a webinar to train school designated staff to interpret the cognitive and non-cognitive Explore results with students and parents, and to prepare each student with their high school ECAP. We also have ACT go over the data, which Meredith will be doing for you in a while, and help you understand those reports and use the data at your schools. So who's participating this year? We have 66 districts this year, 14 charter schools, and a total of 316 schools. So we have over 46,000 8th grade students participating this year on the Explore, which means, again, this year for the second year in a row, we've completed testing over half of the 8th grade students in Arizona on the Explore. So it's been a great success, thanks to all of you. So the overarching goal of the program is to increase the number of college and career-ready students in Arizona by fully implementing the Explore. And that means we have some extra things we'd like you to do. Besides just giving the Explore, that is the reason for this webinar, so that we can feel like students get the full impact of their results. So why did we pick the ACT? It's the Explore, I'm sorry. It's a pre-ACT, and it offers an early indicator of college readiness, and it's supposed to help students explore the world of possibilities that are open to them, and hopefully help them plan their high school coursework and guide them thinking about their futures. And there are many benefits from the Explore. Students can benefit because they get an idea of where they're at academically, and they know what they need to do to improve. Parents benefit because they find out where their students are academically, and then they can help their students take action to improve their academics or to understand what their students need to do elsewhere in their academics to get better scores. Also, participating schools benefit from the data because they can see clearly how they can improve some of their services and possibly change some of their curriculum and teaching to improve their student performance. So, who's responsible for this program at the school? That's all of you, the college and career coaches and district liaisons. So the college and career coaches have been able to provide the test and the assessment at the school so far, and then hopefully you're going to be able to offer the student sessions and parent sessions that we're going to give you the materials for today. And then the district liaisons are supporting you district-wide to help you with that in your schools and help you give you any kind of district support that you would need. If you didn't get these, you were supposed to get this from your superintendent when they signed up for the commitment form to join the Explore program. But district liaisons have roles and responsibilities, and I have these posted on our web page, which I will be giving you at the end of the webinar, but you all should know that by now because I send it to you in every email. But on the Explore web page, we have the roles and responsibilities for both of you. So district liaisons basically serve as a connection between us and the Explore managers. This year, the district liaisons did all the communicating with all the college and career coaches just so we could be sure all districts were on the same path doing all their testing and everybody was on the same page in the district. So the college and career coaches, this is also posted on the web page. They serve as the school contact. They administered the test, and now you're going to get the materials to help do those student-parent sessions and help with the high school registration and completing a pre-ECAP. So basically, we'll move on to the primary focus and give you the tools that you need to do this. So today we're going to provide you with PowerPoints so that you can go back to your schools and help your parents and students understand what all you can do with your Explore results. Some of you may have downloaded this. It was on the web page today. I did not ask you to download it, but it is on our web page, and it's just a final school report guide that helps you complete the final school report, which I'll be talking about. Every school by April 30th will be completing the final school report, and we wanted to give you a tool to help you make the plans for your particular school and how you were going to get this completed. So if you look at this school report, on the top of each page is one of the objectives. You want to distribute your results to students, meet with students, and how are you going to develop a pre-cap with them? How are you going to meet with your parents and explain results? How are you going to get these results to the high school and share the pre-cap with the high school counselors because we want to use it with high school registration? And are you going to do any professional development or curriculum reform in your district? So we just give you the ideas of what you need to be working on, and then we include on the left-hand side things you need to consider. And then on the right-hand side, what is your plan and how are you going to complete it? And hopefully just by using this plan, you don't have to turn this in. It's just for you so you can make a plan. At the workshop, we give you time to work on this, and you can get ideas from other schools so you can go back and figure out how you're going to work with your team and who needs to be talked to at the school, because it's so easy to think about what you have to do, but then not have everybody involved, so you have to go back and figure out who's going to do what, and hopefully this will help you through that process. Again, here is just another page that shows you the professional development considerations and what your plan is. But you want to look at this because you may need to talk with your administration about a lot of these things that may need to be done and that you might need to get approval on. So this is a good plan to give you an idea of what to expect. I did have you download the final school report. Again, this year it's due early. It used to be due in May, but this year it's due by April 30th. And this is what we expect you to do at the school level with all your students. And this is what makes our grant a valuable tool, and we can show that it is really helping students. So that's why we have you turn this in. And I'm going to later talk to you about a summative report that I did based on your results from last year. And I had you download that as well so you can see, since we don't have the benefit of talking with each other on a webinar, I wanted you to see some of the ideas that schools have done in prior years to answer each one of these questions and what they did at their schools. And you can see the percent of students throughout the state who have done these things so you can see how valuable it is. Because Explore has so much to offer, we want to be sure it's used as to its capacity as possible, and there's so much data informed that we want you to be sure that you're using it. So again, complete the final reporting guide just for yourself, just to make it easier, and then every school will need to submit to their district liaison by April 30th their final school report so that I can go through all that data and report that to the grant. Here is the College and Career Planning Guides that hopefully all of you have ordered. If you have not ordered it, there is a link on the web page that you will need to click on and order that. You will use these in your student sessions, and you can see this year they're different. Hopefully all of you have them by now and have had a chance to look at them. The pre-ECAP is in the back of the College and Career Planning Guide. It's in the back of the folder. And you'll be using these for either student and parent sessions, or a lot of people use it for the student session and then have their students bring it back for the parent session. This year, Expect More Arizona and Gear Up developed a web digital college and career planning guide for students to go on and look at it electronically, and it's a very interesting tool. This is the website for it that we give to the students in their student PowerPoint. It's called createyournext.com, and we have students go on there, and it's very much like the College and Career Planning Guide, but they can go on and pick a career. They can, I'll go into more detail here. This is what it looks like, the application itself. So if you log in as an educator to createyournext.com/educator, you can go in and look at what the students are doing and you know, what they will be looking at. You can't see what their particular plans are until I show you later on how to do that, but this is what you would log in just to play with it. So just be sure you always put the /educator when you go on as a educator. This is what the first opening page looks like when a student logs on, and as you can see, they have a lot of careers pictured around the where they will enter their name and what they would like to be. And then if they click on I don't know, some of those pictures disappear, and they click on what they are. They give them choices of what they're interested in, and different pictures will pop up. So it's a very easy, user-friendly process to go through that students are just basically walked through. And the nice thing about this is you can have the students, this could possibly be a homework assignment you might want to do along with your pre-cap, because on this page, as you can see, students can upload their own picture. They can log in through Facebook, and so they can make it very personal and user-friendly for students these days. So they know how to do the uploads and how to log in through Facebook. But if you see in the upper right-hand corner, there's an update profile. And if you have students go to that page, possibly as an assignment, at the very bottom of it, it will ask them how do you to share your goals, and they can put in your name and your email address, and then that will give you the ability to view that they have made a dashboard. So you can see what the students are doing. They have a checklist they can go through, their schools they can look at. It's like an electronic version of the College and Career Planning Guide that has the same checklist and everything, but it's a nice way to have the students keep it all in one place. So feel free to go in and play with this. It's just a brand new application. You'll be the first ones to use it. And I'd be interested to hear how you like it and if your students enjoy it. So again, have them share on the update profile page at the very bottom, and they can send it to you and your email address so you can see what they're doing. That's just a possibility. You don't have to do this, just something we thought you might enjoy this year. So getting down to the PowerPoints themselves that we've updated for this year, hopefully you downloaded them. I know that I put the PDFs up there originally and asked you to download them in notes pages because there is a script. If you couldn't do that and only had the PDF version, the regular PowerPoint version is up there now. So please download all these PowerPoints in notes pages, and it gives you the scripts to use with your students. So you don't have to create anything new unless you want to. And feel free to use some of these slides, all of these slides, however you would like to use it to make your own student session PowerPoints. We just didn't want you to have to start and recreate the wheel. So if you would like to use this in its entirety, that is great. And remember, with each student session and the student PowerPoint, you'll be needing to use your college and career planning guide, the pre-cap, and your test results. That's why we have everybody order the college and career planning guide, so you will have them when you do the results with your students, because it all ties together to fill out that pre-ECAP for each student. And then our hope is that you'll use that pre-ECAP and either send it to the high school or have the students take copies with them, put it in the CUME file so that students will have that information when they get to high school and their counselors can see it, and that they use their pre-cap for high school registration. So this Explore is very helpful to get them started on thinking of their high school four-year plan. We also prepared the parent PowerPoint for your parent sessions, and we also provided it in Spanish, so you could do either 2 different parent nights or have 2 different PowerPoints going at the same time. Last year I provided you with the PDF brochure for the College and Career Day. It's a toolkit, I call it, and it just gives you hyperlinks. It won't help you to download it because the hyperlinks are on the actual PDF. So you will want to just have the PDF on your desktop, and you can click on different links to different websites that are great for college and career exploration. And there's also several possible Google Docs that we've used that you don't have to create like letters to the speakers, or all the information you would need to do any of the events that we have in this toolkit are available on there. So just feel free to look at it and see if there's anything you would like to use. All these are hyperlinks that say Career Guest Speaker Series, Career College Fair. And then over on the right-hand side, I show you the World of Work map, and that's a hyperlink. And we also have on the back page the new Create Your Next from Expect More Arizona link. So all of it is in this PDF brochure as well. So that's just a separate tool that you could use, or you choose not to, that's fine. We just want to give you a little bit of extra resource to have. Here is one of the pages that has some of the Google Docs, like we provide you posters, the presenter spreadsheet, pennants for making for the table. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to see how you could do one of these events, how to do a college and career fair. Down on the bottom of this page, we show you what Mesa Public Schools does for their Explore What's in Store night. So you might want to go to that link to see how they do it. It's a very successful event that they've been doing for the last 3 years, I believe. And as I said, all our PowerPoints and materials for you to download for your student and parent sessions are on our website, which is right here below on the Gear Up Explore program webpage. So everything will be on the right-hand side of that page. Materials are listed at the top, and then this looks a little bit different because today we have it listed as webinar materials for everything that you should download. And then links below will have where you will find a link for ordering the college and career planning guides through Expect More Arizona. So hopefully, I know I ran through this super fast, but we have a lot of ACT data slides for you so you can get the full impact of your reports. So again, if you have questions, be sure to type them at the bottom, and I will try to answer them along the way, and then Meredith will be speaking now on the rest of the data. So thank you, Meredith.
Great, thank you, Anne. Awesome, that was a lot of great information that Anne has shared with you guys, and I'm going to share a little bit more talking about the reports. As Anne already mentioned, this is a quick refresher of a very long workshop. We'll spend about 45 minutes or so looking at your data reports and to see if I can help you a little bit with some of those reports that Anne was talking about, as well as the pre-ECAP and your student and parent sessions. I'm going to start actually with just a quick overview. Before I do that, let me put up my information. You are welcome to jot down my email address, my phone number, and if we don't get questions answered, or all of the questions answered at the end of the webinar today, you're welcome to call me or email me, and I will see what I can do. And you know what, and Anne, even though she'll tell you differently, is very knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff, so she can also answer a lot of your questions. You're welcome, Anne. So the very beginning here, really I'm just going to very quickly do a quick review of ACT's definition of college and career readiness, as well as our longitudinal assessment system, which includes looking at the benchmarks. I know that you guys have probably seen this quite a bit, but I do want to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page here, starting off on the same page, thinking about college and career readiness. And ACT's definition of college and career readiness is the level of preparation that a student needs in order to be equipped to both enroll as well as succeed without remediation in a credit-bearing first-year course at a 2-year or 4-year institution, but also at a trade school or a technical school. There's a couple of things I want to point out about our definition. The first one is, this is the definition that was adopted by Common Core State Standards, so it's probably familiar to you. And there's a key concept in here, and that's the without remediation. Right? We know that college can be really expensive, and we don't want to add another burden of having to pay for some courses that aren't going to count toward a degree plan. Lastly, I do want to point out that we're not just talking about a 4-year institution. We are talking about 2-year institutions as well as trade schools and technical schools. So how do we measure whether or not students are on target to enroll and succeed without remediation? At ACT, we have our longitudinal assessment system, and this provides a way to measure college and career readiness. It's a systemic approach to educational and career planning. So just as a quick kind of review, each test in the ACT college readiness system builds on each other. The first college readiness assessment, which you are probably very familiar with, is ACT Explore. And that's usually administered in 8th grade, although we do have some schools and districts and states who administer in 9th grade. ACT Plan is administered in 10th grade, and then the ACT in 11th and 12th. All 3 of these assessments test student skills in the same 4 areas of English, math, reading, and science. And then the ACT, of course, has that optional writing component. Just as a reminder, all 3 assessments also include a career planning component that we're going to touch on just briefly later on, and I know that you guys are pretty familiar with that. But as I mentioned, the 3 assessments do build on each other. They also have a common scale. So if you look, the highest score that a student can make when they take Explore is a 25. Next, ACT Plan, they can score up to a 32, and then the highest possible score on the ACT is 36. So each test assesses the same subject areas with the content increasing in skill level with each assessment or each test that they take. So let me show you why that's important and what's kind of exciting about that. If a student takes ACT Explore, let's say they score an 18, they've mastered the skills needed to score an 18. When they take ACT Plan, and they score an 8, let's say they scored an 18, they're actually demonstrating the same skills. Then, of course, when they take the ACT, let's say they score an 18 again, they're still demonstrating those exact same skills, right? So our hope, of course, and then what we all work for, is that as students are taking more courses and they're moving from 8th to 9th to 10th, et cetera, that up until when they take the ACT, that they're gaining more skills and that they'll be able to score higher on each test. And we're also assessing more knowledge on Plan and ACT because this is a curriculum-based assessment and we add curriculum as students move through their school years. So thinking about this scale, where on the scales should a student be scoring to be considered college and career ready, at least according to our definition? So to answer that question, you need to be familiar with ACT's college readiness benchmarks. I'm guessing you are, but I want to do a quick reminder that in order to establish our benchmarks, ACT researchers linked students' performance on the ACT with their actual success in entry-level courses. So let me show you, for example, what I mean. Let's take the math subject test as an example. Students who scored on the math subject test a certain score, we looked at those and we linked them to how those students did in their freshman college algebra course. So I'll show you in a minute what English, reading, science scores are linked to, but just kind of remember that all subject tests are linked to success, directly to success in a freshman level college course. And in each case, ACT researchers identified the score that indicated the success. Now, what do we mean by success? Here it is up there. We identified the scores that indicated students had a 50% likelihood of achieving a B or higher in that freshman level course associated with the subject test, or a 75% likelihood of achieving a C or higher in that college algebra course. So let's see what that score is for math. It was identified by our researchers as at least a 22. So students who were making at least a 22 when they took the math test and then they went on to college, they were likely to be successful in that college algebra course. Let me show you for the other subject areas. English scores are linked to success in freshman English composition. Math we just talked about, college algebra. Reading scores are linked to social science courses such as Introduction to Psychology. Some of you might remember taking Introduction to Psychology. There's a lot of reading involved. And then the science scores are tied directly to success in that freshman level biology course. And in each case, our ACT researchers identified the score, and it's listed there, that indicated students had a 50% likelihood of achieving a B or higher in that course, or 75% likelihood of a C or higher. So kind of keeping that in mind and keeping in mind our definition of college and career readiness being the level of preparation needed to enroll and succeed, then you can see the connection to the college readiness benchmarks. Okay. And similarly, we did the same with benchmarks for ACT Plan and ACT Explore. We back mapped the ACT benchmark. Looked at math, the students who were scoring a 22 in on the ACT in math. When we looked back at their plan, they were scoring at least a 19 in math on plan, and then we looked back at those same students' Explore scores, and they were scoring at least a 17 in math, if they took it in 8th grade versus 9th grade. You can see it's a little different. So that's it. That's kind of a quick and dirty, down and dirty kind of introduction. I want to just review it kind of quickly one more time. It's a quick wrap-up. Our definition of college and career readiness is the level of preparation needed for success without remediation. I kind of paraphrased there a little bit. And Explore Plan and the ACT are part of a longitudinal assessment system that share a common scale relationship. What's exciting about that is that performance on one predicts performance on the next, as well as whether a student's on target for college success. And lastly, we just looked at ACT's college readiness benchmarks, which link students' performance on the ACT with their actual success in entry-level college courses. Okay. So I think we're all kind of refreshed now. Hopefully we're all kind of on the same page again. Let's kind of start looking at the reports. There are 4 different reports we're going to look at. The first one is the student score report. This is what it looks like. If you remember this, it's pretty long and skinny in front and back. There are basically 3 sections plus a header. And I'm going to discuss them first, the 2 academic pieces, one on the front, one on the back. And then I'm going to wrap it up by looking at that career section, which is on the front. I do want to remind you that you should receive 2 of these for every student who took Explore. One of those is for your records. The other one is to go home with your students. We highly encourage, and I know that you guys are already doing this with Gear Up, we highly encourage that you first spend time talking to students, then invite parents in, talk to them about the scores and what they mean before you send it home. And I already know you guys are doing that, so that's all I'm going to say. Let me go ahead and start by looking at the header here really quickly. It just gives you student information, not a whole lot to say about the header. So let's look at the score section. This is the top half of the front side, and it really focuses on academic achievement, education planning. It's broken into multiple sections. I'm going to start by looking at the Your Scores section, and I'm actually going to blow that section up just so we can see it a little bit better. As a reminder, it tells you the score range, right? Scores are between 1 and 25. You can see that toward the top there. Now, I get this question sometimes. I'm going to say it really quickly. You know that your students answered more than 25 questions. So just as teachers turn quiz and test scores into grades, of course, that's what we do. We look at the number of questions between 1 and 25, and we turn that into the scale score. We do that to make sure that the different forms are equitable. So just a quick reminder, obviously they have more than 25 questions. The composite score is the average of English, math, reading, and science. It's rounded to the nearest whole number, so it could be rounded up or down once it's averaged. And it's kind of like a GPA, right? It gives you a good idea overall how your students are doing in classes, that's their GPA, or in this case, on the test overall. But we really encourage you to look not at the composite score, but to look at the individual test scores, because that's going to give us a lot better idea of what our students know and where their weaknesses and strengths are. And I want to draw your attention just briefly to the two scores just under English called the subscores. Notice that their range is from 1 to 12, which is different than the range of 1 to 25. Just something to keep in mind. They tell you how your students are doing in two specific areas of English. The usage and mechanics, that's like grammar and punctuation, that sort of stuff. And then the rhetorical skills, which is how your students understand style or organization in writing. And right over to the right-hand side of that, you'll see those bars. I love these horizontal bars. I feel like they give us some context. All right, we've got a number, 15, for composite score. The further over to the right that bar is going to let us know that that's the greater number, or really the better your student's doing, right? The greater number of students who scored at or below this particular student. So here, for example, you see that our student scored a 15, right directly to the right of that in the U.S. Fall 8th grade shows 53%, which indicates that 53% of the students in the United States scored the same as our student or below our student. Okay. I always like to tell the students the opposite way. You scored the same as or higher than 53% of the students the norm group, the students in the 8th grade who took this across the nation. Okay. And then there's in your school, you can compare your students' scores to students within their own school. That's one of the really big sections of the report, this top part. The other one is the bottom right-hand corner. This is the college readiness section. So I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom right-hand corner. This gives us a really quick look at scores in relation to college readiness benchmarks. So let me blow that up just briefly. I remind you that ACT results are going to give students an early indication of how likely they are to be ready for college-level work once they get to that level. So this section shows whether your student scored below, at, or above the ACT Explore College Readiness Benchmark for English, Math, Reading, and Science. And so students who meet the benchmark scores are very likely on target for success in entry-level college courses in these subject areas. And so there are a couple of things we want to start thinking about when we look at this. Right? One is, are our students' scores below the benchmark? Right? Is our student on target? If our student is not on target, what are we going to do? What are some actions that we can take to increase college readiness? One of the suggestions we have is to make sure that students are meeting the recommended core courses needed for college success, making sure that they're taking as many English, math, reading, and science courses as they can, and making sure that those are rigorous courses. Also, we can use this to kind of look at what areas does the student need intervention in. If they're doing really well in one subject, we know that we can kind of just let them continue on their path and they'll be okay, but there may be some areas where they need some serious intervention. Now, I want to show you just really briefly the relationship between that first box that we looked at and then this one that we just reviewed. If you'll notice that in the first box, our student scored a 16 in English. We can tie that to the second box, which shows us that the college readiness benchmark is 13. So we know that our student scored above the benchmark. And then science, same thing, right? Our student scored a 13. We've got the college readiness benchmark as 18 for science, and we can see that our student scored below that. I just wanted to draw your attention to the connection between those two boxes. I'm going to kind of wrap up this section by not zooming in on the rest of these, but just drawing your attention to them as a quick reminder. There's a core coursework. All three of these boxes, by the way, come from information that your student has self-reported. Something really important to keep in mind. On the core coursework, the gray box is where your student has reported the courses they're going to take when they get to high school. It's a great opportunity to see, one, whether or not your students really know what's required of them when they get to high school. The kind of middle top box there, we give your students 7 areas of need. They can choose any of those as an area that they need help in. So for example, one of them is improving my writing skills. It's checked off here, if you can see that. So this student shows that they need some help in that area. In a couple minutes, when we look at the profile report, I'm going to show you how you can look at what all of your students chose as a group. You'll also see the bottom middle section where it says plans. Your students are self-reporting. What are their plans after high school? Are they going to a 4-year college? Do they know what they're going to do? Are they going into the military? What are their plans? They'll also self-report the area that they think that they're interested in, the career area that they think that they might be interested in moving into. Great information there, and again, I'll show you at the profile report how you can get all that information for your students as a whole instead of just looking at an individual. Now, if you had an actual report in front of you, and some of you may, at this point you would flip it over. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. You don't need it. But this is the back section. All I'm showing is English. On the back of the actual student report, you'll see all 4 subject areas, the English, math, reading, and science. I'm actually going to blow up this English section even more to kind of talk just briefly about it. This is the item response summary section, and it shows the answer that one particular student gave to each of the individual questions. Remember that you can use the test booklet. You can keep the test booklet. You can hand it back to the students. Students can open up that test booklet with their teachers, read question 1 together, and then our student here would look at their own question 1. I'm going to highlight that. And they would notice the correct answer is answer choice A. So the student can read that. The student can then look under your answer. It has a plus sign, which indicates that our student answered A. And then that last column, the subscore, it lets the students and the teachers know, was this in the usage subscore or the rhetorical skills subscore? Okay. So what's really exciting about this, it also tells you if there's not a plus under your answer, there'll be a letter. You can see number 3 has letter A. So the student answered number 3 incorrectly, and they also know what they chose. They chose answer A, answer choice A. It's really powerful for students. It really gives them a good say into their education, into how they're doing. My students used to get really excited about this. You can see at the bottom, it also tells how many students, or the correct answers. Let me just back up and start over there. The number of answers the student answered correctly, the number they answered incorrectly, and then the number of questions they omitted. So kind of a nice little wrap up there for the students, a little summary. Also on the backhand side for the students over on the right, there are suggestions for improvement. And notice that the suggestions for improvement correspond to specific content areas. So for example, you'll see topic development. So students can see specifically in topic development or organization or word choice what they can do. Now, I'm going to mention again that my students loved looking at this. We did it by classrooms. The teachers really enjoyed this. The good news is this is by individual student. In a couple of minutes, I'll show you how you can look at it for all of your students. My entire school, did they all get number 1 correct? Did they all get number 1 incorrect? How did they do? So we'll get back to that in a couple of minutes. I'm going to wrap up the student score report by looking at the career exploration section. Again, if you were looking at one in front of you, you would flip this back to the front because this is on the front at the bottom. You remember when your students take ACT Explorer, they're asked those 72 questions. They look something like this. They're not really questions, they're more statements, right? And they get to choose these tasks and say whether or not they would like to do this or dislike it, or they're kind of indifferent to these tasks. Right? Based on their answers, ACT Explorer will report out back to them what kind of jobs might appeal to them based on what they're interested in. I know that you guys are familiar with this. I love this section. I think a lot of our students really do too. The report part of it, I'm not going to blow any of these pieces up and discuss them in detail, but as Anne has already mentioned, if there's something you want to know specifically about this section, go ahead and type it in the chat box and we'll get to it. We'll answer it. The top part here is just an explanation. It tells students, it tells parents, it tells teachers, how did this information get here? Where is it from? Then there's the World of Work map. I think you guys are really familiar with that. I know earlier Anne showed how you can get to the interactive World of Work map online. Excuse me. The one thing I want to say about, or two things about World of Work map. The career choices are based on Holland's career types. If you're counselors, that makes sense to you. And the only thing that changes on this map for students are the grayed out pie pieces. So notice our student has 3 pie pieces grayed out, section 12, section 1, and section 2. That was based on how they responded to those 72 items. So your students' gray areas will change. And then they'll correspond over to the career list. I also want to mention Region 99. I want to see a show of hands, like show of hands of how many of you have seen the Region 99 section grayed out. Probably a lot of you have. I'm going to let you know why. If a student for some reason answers 5 or 6 or only a few, thank you for raising your hand. If you see that Region 99 grayed out, it means the student has either only answered maybe 5, 10 of those 72 items. Maybe they answered all 72 as dislike, or all 72 as like. We're not able to get any information from that, so Region 99 is grayed out. Here's the great news. For the first time ever, if you see Region 99 grayed out, your student can redo the career exploration section. They cannot redo it on paper and pencil or in a test format, but we have put it online. What we have is called ACT Profile, and it's at actprofile.com. It's basically our Facebook, right? We've made it, it's a social media. Students will have to create an account. Teachers, counselors can also create an account, but the good news is students can redo, if they want, those 72 items, and there are 2 other interest inventories that will give them even more information. Just something to think about, certainly not anything that you have to do. All right, that wraps up the entire student score report, front, back, that whole thing. And just as a quick little review here, what are we going to do with this? Once you have this, teachers and counselors or district liaisons, college and career coaches, We'll look at those individual student results and start interpreting them individually. Then, of course, you have to meet with the students, and I know you guys have some reports that you're meeting with students about and completing, and then, of course, taking those results to parents and meeting with parents. And that wraps up that section. So if you have questions about that section, you're welcome to type them in right now as I'm reminding you of this one resource that might be really helpful, and that's explorestudent.org. Students can go out here and use it. Parents can go out here and use it. It might just be someplace you point parents to during your, you know what, I just saw that to go over Region 99 again, and I certainly will do that, and I agree that we'll do it at the end if that's okay. The one thing that I will say, just as a quick reminder, that Region 99 is grayed out if for some reason the student didn't answer all 72 items in a way that allows us to get an idea of their interest. So they may not answer all the items, they only answered 10. Or they answered every 72 item the same way. So I'm going to leave it at that, and if there needs more explanation at the end, we'll definitely come back to it. Thank you guys for your questions and for participating by raising your hands. Y'all are awesome. The profile summary report, let me move on to that. Remember, this is the one that aggregates all the data from that student score report that we just looked at. The cover, I'm kind of showing you the cover right now. Here's my warning to you. All the covers look exactly the same. The only difference is the title of the report, and I've got it circled up there so that every time you pull out one of these reports, because you'll have multiple different ones, make sure you're reading the correct one. And we're looking at Profile Summary Report right now. There are two kind of main tables that I'm going to talk about. They're going to look familiar to you, and then I'm going to briefly touch on what else is in there. On page 2 in the report, this probably looks very familiar, the frequency distribution table. I'm going to blow that up and kind of remind you what's on it. On the left-hand side, you'll see the score, 1 through 25. If a student scored a 25, a perfect score on English, right next to the score column, you'll see the frequency column. We've got 2 in the frequency column, so 2 of our sample students, this is a sample report, 2 of our sample students scored a perfect score of 25 in English. And then you can move down from there all the way to 1. You can see that 0 students scored a 1 on the English portion. Of course, all the other subject areas are also listed on this report, as well as the composite. I want to run through the activity that we did in January, just to refresh your memory. Obviously, you're not going to take a lot of time to do that right now, but it is something that I'm going to highly encourage you to do again when you get your reports that I believe will come out. I don't actually know. I shouldn't say anything. I think it's going to be around February, January. Maybe soon. Maybe you already have them.
Meredith, sorry to interrupt. They should all have their district reports before Christmas. All the schools have their reports, but district reports will be delivered by Christmas for everyone.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Anne. And don't ever apologize for interrupting. You should interrupt me as much as possible. It'll certainly make this more interesting. So, good. You have your reports. Great. Some of you may even have them in front of you now, which would be fantastic. So here's my quick refresher of the activity that we did in January that hopefully you'll have a chance to also do with these reports. First, we identified the benchmark, and for English, the benchmark on Explore is 13, that's circled. Then we started to identify the students who scored in that benchmark area. We highlighted in yellow the students who scored right at benchmark, 1 or 2 above benchmark, and 1 or 2 below benchmark. And then we kind of calculated out, well, how many was that? What percentage of our students are in this area that we call the cusp? We then moved on and identified the students who were well on target to be in college and career ready, right? They were more than 2 points above the benchmark. And again, we calculated out our numbers. And then we did the same for our third group, identifying our students who are in need of intervention, the number, the percentage. And if you're doing this year after year after year, it's giving you a good idea about your system and your program and maybe your curriculum. If the numbers aren't changing much, that might give you some idea of where you need to help students, guide students. If you're English, they're always doing much more poorly than they are in, say, math. Maybe it's an area you talk to your math teachers, math district, curriculum directors, whomever, to see kind of what they're doing differently. Now, and again, this shows you a particular score, right? The number of students at a particular score. Well, really, to understand a score and what a score means, I need to introduce you to another foundational component of ACT's college readiness system, and that's our college readiness standards. These should look pretty familiar to you. The URL on the bottom, act.org/standard, is something you want to be aware of. Our college and career readiness standards are empirically derived, right? So that means that they were determined by looking at the types of skills in various content areas that students in a particular score range consistently demonstrated. So what I mean by that, let me get a little more detailed. Researchers looked at students who were scoring, say, between 13 to 15. And they identified the skills, the knowledge and the skills that they were demonstrating at that score level of 13 to 15. Then they did the same for 16 to 19, 20 to 23, and then so on up the scale. So because we've done that, you can really use these standards to start interpreting the scores, to understand, to use the standards in order to make some meaning from the reports and from the scores. And then we can also start translating that into an action plan. We already know that what the students are able to do, and now we know what they're ready to learn next. The other exciting part of the standards is we've got a report or a table from this report that's really going to help us with these standards. But before I get to that table, I want to just quickly kind of orient you to how the standards are set up. They are arranged by the score range. You can see across the top there. They also are arranged by strand. So you can see we're looking at math right now, math standards. Then they're also, of course, they include the actual standards themselves. The statements that describe what a student is likely to know and then what a student is likely to be able to do. Now, there's one thing I do want to point out. Some of you have been using the standards for at least a year, if not longer. We recently reformatted our standards in order to make it a lot easier for educators to see the overlap and the alignment between our college and career readiness standards and various other state standards that are in place across the country, such as Common Core. And these newly formatted standards are available online at the act.org/standard. You can also get online and click that View Changes that I've circled up there, and it will give you an idea of how they were reformatted. They are also numbered now, and previously they were not numbered, so they're a lot easier to refer to. Just a quick little update on that. Now let's get back to the profile report and the table that really helps us kind of bring all this together. This is the table that where we bring the college readiness standards together with your student scores, and it gives you a lot of really good information of skill sets of groups of students. So you'll notice that it's kind of small, so I hope you can see this, but you can see the CRS ranges are listed down the side, the 4 content areas across the top, and the benchmark is there as a reminder. Another really important piece of data is the percentage of students at or above benchmark in a particular area, and it's listed by your local group as well as national. Here's a reminder. The local group might be your school if you've got a school report. It might be your district if you have a district report. So you've got to be very aware of what kind of report you have. so that you know what local means, which students you're looking at. And the header up top is going to tell you whether it's, who your group of students is. What was I saying? Okay, across the bottom, you've got the at or above. And that's really important to keep in mind because sometimes the benchmark will fall in the middle of the college readiness score range. It'd be really difficult to determine quickly how many students met the benchmark. So just something to kind of keep in mind. All right, let's put this together as an example. Let's look across the bottom, see how our local percent at or above compares nationally. We can see the lowest percent, or the biggest difference is in science. I'm going to circle that. 9% of our students met benchmark in science. And again, this is sample report. 37% met benchmark nationally. So if students aren't meeting the benchmark, we want to look at the ranges that they are scoring in. What ranges are they scoring in? Our biggest group, 48%, are scoring in that 16 to 19 score range. So this is where our students are most proficient in that 16 to 19 score range. What we can do now that we have this information, right, we've realized that a majority of our students are falling in a particular score range. Now we can go back to the college readiness standards. We can define which skills are solidly in place for the bulk of your students, those in the 16 and 19 score range. Then, more importantly, right, we can move over to the higher score ranges, review our curriculum, review these higher score ranges, see what's underneath them, those more advanced skills, and see, is it in our curriculum? Is it in our curriculum early enough for students to actually develop mastery? Okay, to give this some really a good place to start. Sounds like I have a question. No, maybe that was just me. Okay, so that we want to make sure that we've exposed students to rigorous content, right, through our carefully aligned curriculum. That's one step. It's one place to start. I'm going to show you a couple more reports really quickly from here, our tables from this report. Table 2 will give us an idea of where some of our instructional gaps are. It looks at scores based on gender, race, and ethnic background. I'm not going to talk about that one too much. I just want you to know it's there. Same as these other tables. I just want you to know they're there. Table 3, this is where, if you remember earlier, I told you that students will self-report what their educational plans are after high school. Here's where it's all aggregated. You can see that one of the categories is, I don't plan to finish high school. You could see the number or percent of students who selected that. If a huge percentage of your students are choosing, say, career technical school, think about how are you encouraging and supporting those educational plans? Are you trying to support and encourage their plans in a different direction? If they're, everyone has chosen four-year college, what are we doing to encourage and support those plans? Table 4 is the same sort of thing. I mentioned earlier that we give students a list of areas that they may need help in, and then students can say, yeah, I need help in this area. This is where it's all aggregated. Right? So you can look and see, overall as a group, what are the areas of need that your students have expressed, and do you have programs or services to meet those needs of students? Last table I want to point out, now there are a couple of other tables in the profile report that I've not put in here. They are related to the career area. They're pretty self-explanatory, something you can look at. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask me about them. Table 6 is a local items table. So GEAR Up has written 12 questions. They've asked you guys to ask those questions of your students. The questions are around topics such as school climate, post-high school plans, student perceptions about maybe people in their school, how they're treated, how they feel about school, how their friends feel. So there's some good information in there. I'm going to guess, and Ann might need to interrupt me, I'm going to guess that Ann has posted these questions out on the website.
Yes, they're on our CLAIR website.
Perfect. Thank you, Ann. So you can read the questions. What you're going to have, you won't have the questions in the report. You will only have how your students responded. What percentage chose A? What percentage chose B? So you'll have to go look at the questions that are out on the website to see what the questions and answers were. All right, let's wrap that up just with a quick review. Everything that we looked at the individual student report was aggregated up into this profile report. We were able to identify college and career readiness for our students as a group, as a whole, look for instructional gaps, as well as identifying different educational plans and the reported needs of students as a whole. I have 2 more reports, and I have to be honest, I have no idea how long I have been talking, but these last 2 reports go relatively quickly. The second to last one is the item response summary report. When we looked at the back of that individual student report earlier, and it had the individual item response, that's what this report is. It provides item-by-item performance for your students as a whole instead of just looking at one student. Right? So it's really useful for looking at curriculum, especially if you use the booklet. I mentioned earlier you can use that test booklet. So let's jump in here. Before we do, remember the cover looks the same. The only thing that differentiates it is the title. So make sure you're looking at the title. It says Item Response Summary Report. This is Table 2. Table 1 is English. Table 2 is Math. Table 3, 4, Reading and Science. So we're just going to look at part of Table 2, Math. I'm actually going to blow that up so that we can look at it even closer. You'll remember probably that this is organized by strand. You can see pre-algebra is written there over on the kind of the second row on the left-hand side. Under pre-algebra are some numbers. Those are item numbers. Question number 1, 2, 3, 6, 11, 18 were all, etc., all pre-algebra questions. And then as we move over, I'm going to actually highlight number 23 to kind of explain all the different parts. So question number 23, second column has a 25. That means that 25% of the students chose answer A or answer F. The reason it alternates A or F is because if every question, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all had answer choice A, B, C, students get a little off in their bubbling sometimes, and we want to help a little bit by alternating. Question 1 is an A, question 2, F, question 3, A, if that made sense. Let me get back to number 23. The 25% of our students answered choice A or F. The asterisk tells us that's the correct answer. So it's really interesting when we look over to the next column, 43% of our students chose answer B or G. You can move down, 4% answered C or H, 13 D or J, 4 E or K. Notice 10% omitted it. They just left it blank entirely. Before I get back to talking about 43%, the kind of middle column there that says reference group has a 37 in it. So again, we can compare our students' performance. 25% of our students answered A, got the correct answer. 37% of the reference group chose A and got the correct answer. We're pretty far below the reference group, which tells us that there may be something going on with our particular group of students when we're looking at question number 23. Notice in that second to last column it has a negative 12 under less often. 37 minus 25, 12. We are basically 12 points below, 12 percentage points below the reference group. That's a pretty big difference. It's something we want to pay attention to. I'm going to kind of come back to that in just a few minutes. But what I want to do is remind you again of an activity that we did. Uh-oh. Oh, that's not good. I'm not sure what happened to my activity. It's blank, so I'm going to back up one more and just kind of talk through it briefly. We circled every asterisk, I really don't like that word, that every percentage point that has an asterisk next to it so that we know where our correct answers are. We then highlighted. We highlighted in yellow, pink, green, and left some blank by quartiles. You can do it really any way you want. And I'm going to show you, you'll see it in just a second, I promise, if my other slides work. Once we did that, we started to look for patterns. We said, okay, what's happening? Do we have a lot of students getting these areas correct, a lot getting these incorrect? We tried to figure out patterns based on frequency in one domain over another domain. Cross your fingers, let's hope this next one works. Excellent. So that's what it looked like once we were finished. We had our items circled. We had them highlighted in green if it was between 50 to 74%. We had them highlighted in yellow if it was 25 to 49%. We had them highlighted in red or pink if it was 0 to 24%. And we left them blank if they were up in that upper quartile, 75% or more answering correctly. Then we looked for patterns. Here's an example of a pattern we looked for. Clustered around a large percent, right, clustered around a wrong answer. Or a large percent clustered around, I'll just show you right here, the dramatic difference in a reference group, and that's that big -12. We also looked for a high percentage of omitted questions. And that one's not showing up either. I apologize for that. But just as a kind of quick reminder, I highly encourage you to look at this item by item, or at least department chairs and curriculum directors and teachers to look at this report item by item. Okay. And again, please feel free to type in questions, especially on some of my missing slides there. This is it. Intervention rosters. That is our last section, and I will tell you this is very, very short. So those of you who are sticking with me, I appreciate it. I'm almost ready to wrap it up. Last piece here, again, the report looks the same. This one's even a little trickier because the title is Profile Summary Report, Early Intervention Rosters, which of course is similar to the first report that we looked at. These are only school level reports. You won't have district level reports. There are 3 different rosters, and they identify students who fall into 3 different categories. I'm not going to read through those because I'm just going to show you what each roster looks like. Roster 1 is a list of students by first and last name of every student who self-reported that either they don't plan to finish high school or that they don't have any post-high school educational plans. And you can see that right-hand column under educational plans that all of our sample students chose undecided. That's what got them here on this first roster. The second roster shows every single one of your students by first and last name who scored below the national 10th percentile, which is a fantastic roster because immediately you've got a list of students who need serious intervention and they need it quickly. One caution here is you may see a student, let's look at student 2 for example, scored a 3 in English but a 17 in math. So we don't want to across the board give them remediation in English, math, reading, and science. Obviously we want to look at each of the individual subject areas, though the reason they got on this report is because their composite score was below the national 10th percentile, or at or below it. Okay. Just a little caveat there. And then the third roster, these are students who express the need for help. By first and last name, if they said they needed help with writing skills, they're listed here, and writing skills has an X by it to let you know. So it'll help you kind of with your, whether it's tutoring programs or extra classes or anything. There are 2 cautions I have on this report, on this roster. You're going to have students who have checked that they need help in every single area, and their scores are going to be very high. We know those students really well, don't we? Those are students who they just want to do their best. Yeah, I need help with everything because I want to be even better. So that's one caution. The second, you're going to have students who need help in these areas that do not show up on the roster, right? We know some of those students also. Yeah, they know they need help. Their teachers know they need help. They don't want to identify that they need help in these areas. Their scores may be really low, but they may not show up on this roster just because they didn't choose an area for help. All right, I am wrapping it up by just reminding you of the 4 reports that we just went over. The student score report is that individual report, 1 per student. Actually, you receive 2 per student. The profile summary report takes all that individual student data and summarizes it into 1 report. The item summary report is an item-by-item performance of your students, and it summarizes the back of the individual report. And then the last one that we looked at, the early intervention rosters. Remember, those are school level, and they identify students in very specific categories. That is everything I have. There are questions. I can answer them, or if any came in while I was rambling on.
I don't see any questions right now, but as you all have probably just realized from this last hour that we crammed a ton of information and a lot of reports that have so much information that you could delve into, and we briefly touched on them. So if you feel totally confused after this and feel like you would still like to attend a workshop, please just send me an email and I can send you the schedule again of the workshops if you would like to attend one. And that way you could talk to Meredith and I in person and go into more detail on the reports. So as I said, it's a lot of information and we went over it really quickly, so hopefully you've done this before and you know what all this is about. So email me any questions, and as Meredith said, you can email her as well, but I prefer if you go through me first just so we're not bothering her because she's on the road all the time. Anyway, any questions before we close?
There was earlier one on Region 99, and I kind of went back over it. I'm wondering if that was enough information or if there's still a question about Region 99.
That was Frank. Frank, do you still want more information on Region 99?
Okay, great. Thank you, Frank. Frank says he's okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll let you go, and thank you for your patience during this very long webinar, and we appreciate you, Meredith, for all your help in understanding all those reports.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time tonight, or today.
All right.